Me and my friend have been experimenting. My friend Connor and I are very close. Ever since he moved to my town, we have been as thick as thieves. He is the kind of person that makes me happy without even trying. He is very goofy and spontaneous, just like I am. We are also that pair that is too comfortable with each other. We overshare things to the last detail, which is just how we are. Recently, that has led to a predicament that I cannot even begin to fathom. It all started with a sleepover. We have always had sleepovers since we were young, so when his parents told him that they were going out of town, he had called me immediately. He could have organized a party, but both of us hate those. We are what you call ambiverts. He figured that we could have a couple of drinks and just chill. So then I went over to his house on that Saturday evening. My mother dropped me off and told me that she would pick me up the next morning. This was going to be one of the best nights of my whole year. I knocked on the door and Connor let me in. He was already cooking dinner. Did I mention that he is one of the best cooks I have ever come across? The guy actually enjoys cooking. Which teenager enjoys cooking? I am always teasing him about that, but all in good nature. I always benefit from him giving me all the food he cooks at his extra lessons. The perks of having a friend that cooks. It is not a one-sided friendship in the slightest, because my Connor cannot drive to save his life. He has failed multiple driving tests, so I am his designated driver whenever he needed to go somewhere. Yep, we were very symbiotic and I like that. When it came to relationships, we usually went for different types. He went for guys and I went for girls. He had come out to me when we were 12 and I had been very supportive of him. We never compromised our bonding time for our relationships, which was probably why most of them failed. I am a very sensual person, so I like touching people. Having a physical connection with someone makes me feel a whole lot closer to them. He knows this and appreciates me being affectionate to him. He does not mind me touching his hair or cuddling him sometimes. I am just that kind of person. Back to the point. He was cooking and it smelled divine. I wanted to wrap myself in that smell because gosh, it was very tantalizing from the smell alone. I walked into the house and plopped my bag on the couch. I then followed him in the kitchen where we talked while he made food. The both of us are very talkative. We could talk for England, to be fair. I was moaning about how it had been so long since I had sex. He asked me how bad it was and I said pretty bad. He asked if it was bad enough that I would sleep with him and I said yes jokingly. We both laughed and carried on talking about other things. After he was done cooking, we took our dinner to the living room. There we sat and we watched a movie. I had been dying to see No Way Home for ages, so I convinced him to put it on. We laughed at the funny parts together. We were also those kinds of people you could not watch a movie with. We were constantly commenting on the characters and what they were doing. It was as if we were in the film, so we were a match made in heaven when we watched movies. After dinner, I helped him by washing up. I was really familiar with his house and it always felt like a second home, so doing the mundane task of washing the dishes was really nothing. It was what we did at sleepovers. I could not let my best friend do all the work. After I was done, he looked at me with a mischievous glint in his eyes. I knew that something big was up, and I, being the troublemaker that I was, could not resist the temptation. He asked me if I wanted to go into his parents' wine cellar. I agreed without skipping a beat, of course. It was either that or forking out a few dollars between us and paying the 21-year-old next door to go and buy our beers. His parents were very ambitious wine collectors. You could find almost anything here. From vintage to recent, they had everything. The shelves were lined with sweet rose, dry red, white wine, and champagne. He led me to a shelf that had multiple bottles. He said that his parents would not notice those because they were the ones that they drank as well. We took 2 bottles and were on our way. We poured some for ourselves and just chilled for a while. We drank like fishes, of course, and soon we were done with both the bottles. You know, I am feeling so deprived, I said. And here I am, he said. I looked at his lips and swallowed. They did look quite kissable. I could not imagine how it would feel like to kiss those soft lips. Maybe I will, I said daringly, staring into his eyes. His eyes were a beautiful copper that lit up when it caught the sun. Absolutely stunning they were. We looked at each other for a while. Then we burst out laughing. He went to turn on some music, then we danced like no one was watching. Nothing beats dancing while you are drunk. I dare you to argue with me about that. It is like you do not care whether your moves look okay. Your body is just caught in the rhythm. We danced with each other for a while, laughing and enjoying ourselves for as long as we could. Soon, it was time to get to bed. I usually brought my sleeping bag with me when I came to his house so that I could sleep in it. But on that day, I was too drunk to bother setting it up, so we collapsed into bed together. "Good night," I said, leaning in to kiss him on the cheek. At the last moment, he turned and our lips connected. I did not turn away. Maybe I should have, but I did not give a damn. I had never given much thought to my sexuality. I was curious to figure out how it felt to kiss a guy. And tonight I was gonna get the answers to all my questions. Before we can take it to next level, a phone began ringing. I checked and saw that it was my mom calling. I jumped off the bed and went to the front of the room to answer it. I turned my back on him and answered the call. "Hi, Mom," I said. "Hey, just wanted to check if you two are all right," she said. "No, we are good." We chatted for about a minute, then I hung up. After that we kinda lost the spark and he went back to bed. When he was gone, I started to think about what had happened. Sure, it had been beyond pleasurable, but what did it mean? I liked what we had done, but I was not sure what it meant for my sexuality. I was too drunk to be having such deep thoughts anyways. I would deal with it later. A few minutes later, I got into his bed and closed my eyes. I felt him move closer to me and cuddle me. I felt secure when he did that and I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to find him staring at me. The light filtered in through the window behind me and it got caught in his copper eyes, making them look like the burning sun. "Why were you staring at me?" I said slowly. I was always slow in the morning. It took a cup of coffee to wake me up and he knew that. "Nothing, just did not want to wake you up. You looked so peaceful," he said. I smiled slightly and sat up. Since I had bathed the previous day, I decided to go and brush my teeth and wash my face. He followed behind me and we entered the bathroom together. For a while, we were quiet as we did what we were doing. "Okay, what is for breakfast?" I asked. He took one look at me and burst out laughing. I furrowed my eyebrows. What in the world was up with him? Why was he laughing at me? "What?" I crossed my arms over my chest. "You have a little something," he said as he put his finger on my face and removed something. He showed me and I saw that it was toothpaste. How embarrassing. If it was up to him, I was not gonna hear the end of this for the whole day. He was probably gonna call me Santa or Mr. Mustache. He was so childish and so was I. "Not a word?" I said. "Sure, Mr. Mustache." He laughed. I glared at him and he bit back his laughter. "Did I not tell you?" He was never going to let me hear the end of it. "Let us get some coffee into you. Maybe you will be less grumpy, huh?" he said. Now that was music to my ears. We left the bathroom and went over to the kitchen. I turned the kettle on while he was making the coffee. He was the best coffee maker in the world. Mine always managed to taste questionable, which was why I always bought it, but it was perfect and very delicious. I went to the fridge to see what we could eat. I spotted the donuts my mom had given me and I took them out. He was finally finished with making the coffee, so we sat down at the table and began eating. The coffee was perfect. It simply melted onto my tongue with the donuts. I am a very sensual person, as I explained earlier. This does not apply only to touch, but to all my senses as well. I like to savor every moment and experience it. This is why I did not take my phone to concerts or important things. I like to keep my memories in my mind and not in some disposable chunk of metal. After my coffee, I was feeling much more cheerful. The day looked brighter than it had a few seconds ago. Now that my mind was at peak condition, last night's events came flashing back to me. I had been drunk but not out of my senses, had done what I had been wanting to do for a while. The desire had just been so deeply buried within me that I had not given it a thought. I could not stop thinking about how good it felt. What did it mean for our friendship? Was I now gay? I still liked girls, I thought. This whole thing was another mess that I needed to figure out. I had noticed him gazing at me several times when he thought I was not looking. I wondered what thoughts were running through his head at that moment. Was he now expecting more than I could give him? My thoughts were scrambled. The more I sat there, the more I was confused about what was going on. I could not be in his presence any longer. I had to leave. "Hey dude, I just remembered that I need to do something. I will see you later," I said. His eyes widened as I got out of my chair and started gathering my stuff. My house was a bit of a distance and my mother was at the salon, so I was gonna have to walk. I rushed out of the house while he was still calling me and ran down the street. A couple of minutes later, I arrived home. I went straight up to my room and lay on my bed. I am very confused about how to handle the whole situation. I really care about him. We have been best friends since forever. But these new feelings that are starting to emerge are making me feel something that I have never felt before. Something that I actually want to explore. What should I do? To be continued. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.